Thank you. I don't know what he's talking about. We all love strategic planning, right? Right? In fact, there is someone in this room, and I won't look directly at this person, who once told me, I hate strategic planning. And this was in a meeting. This was the first meeting where we were going to actually work on strategic planning. Unfortunately, strategic planning is often not very energizing, and it's often not very useful, which it needs to be. It needs to be useful, and it can be. And it can be energizing as well. Today I'm going to talk about 5 principles and 2 tools. So if you can keep these 5 principles in mind and customize these 2 tools for your organization, you will be well positioned to set great strategy. Not just every 3 years or 5 years or 2 years, but on a monthly and a weekly and a daily basis. And it won't be super painful. Because let's face it, how many of us in this room are actually only faced with key questions or competitive challenges or a multitude of options to consider only once every 3 years? Anybody? No, it happens all the time. And it happens when you least expect it. So the key, like with everything else, is to be prepared, to set the stage, to lay the groundwork. Alexander Graham Bell, before everything else, preparation is the key to success. Another quote that I like, Bobby Unsner, success is where preparation and opportunity meet. So for those who don't know, Bobby Unsner is actually one of the most successful automobile racers in history. And for those who know me, I did in fact learn that on Google. I am no expert in automobile racing. However, I do really like what he has to say, and I think it's very applicable here. Know yourself is the first principle. It is not uncommon for individuals and organizations to sometimes lose track of who they are. For an individual, reconnecting with that can mean spending time with family or a close friend, someone who brings you back to that essential self. For an organization, it means spending time with your board and your senior staff, or all of your staff if you're a small organization, and really taking time to talk about the essential elements of your organizational identity. So what is that? It's your mission and vision. Why does your organization exist? What change are you trying to make in the world? What good are you doing or attempting to do? And for whom? Who do you serve? Where do you do this work? What exactly are these programs and services that are going to get you to where you say you want to go? And, reminiscent of our last speaker, how are you going to pay for all that? What's your economic model? So these questions may seem simple on the surface, like, oh, we all know that. We live that every day. But taken together, those answers are your business model. And having a solid shared understanding of your business model is a critical precursor to forming really great strategy. So the second principle, know your market. We got it. To really know yourself, you need to know the world around you. We all live in a larger organizational context. Our organizations and those we serve are continually impacted by social trends, economic trends, demographic, political, technological, funding changes in the environment. So taking time to really identify them, explore them, and understand those changes and their implications will help you be better prepared to recognize potential future opportunities and challenges, and to think about what you might do in response, or even better, what you might do in anticipation of those things. Refresh that understanding often. It will help you be ready for the unexpected. Now, part of knowing your market is knowing who else is out there in your space and how your organization compares. What is it that sets you apart? What is it that's distinct about your organization? What is that one strength that differentiates you, makes you unique, that helps you make the case that others should support your work? Financially, very key, but otherwise as well. In other words, what is your competitive advantage? You want to know what that is so you can leverage it when the need arises. Third, build on your strengths. It is human nature to focus on our weaknesses. We fret about our weaknesses. We spend lots and lots of time making plans for improvement. There's a 30-day plan for everything, and I have most of them on my hard drive. I'm sure some of you do as well. But as individuals, we are more energized, and as organizations, we're more successful when we focus on our strengths. Do more of what you do best. So, what is it that you do best? That is that unique strength, that thing that differentiates you, as I said. If you know that, you will be better prepared. That is a key ingredient in your first tool, which is your identity statement. So I referenced that earlier. Your identity statement is where you pull it all together. It's something like this. Or you make it visual. Summarize it. You can look like this. You can make it more interesting. More interesting is great. The key is to summarize all of this in a way that works for your organization, for your board, for your staff, so that everyone who's important, who is part of your organization and leading your organization, knows it, has ability to explain it, has internalized it, and can actually apply it when, again, the need arises. And if you can do that, if you can know that and you can do that, you will be better prepared to make better strategic choices. And strategy is about making choices. So this gets to the fourth principle. Make your decision-making criteria explicit. So we all know what it's like to make choices in our personal lives. You think of a situation where you've been faced with multiple options, you're at a fork in the road, the pressure's on. What do you do? So this can be just as hard, usually harder, when you're making a decision for an organization. There's a lot of importance attached to this. People are impacted, lives are impacted. What do? It's hard to make a decision in the heat of the moment. Having a set of pre-established criteria can help you do that. And that gets to a strategy screen. Every organization needs their own unique screen. There are some basic criteria, things that harken back to your identity statement, things like, does it help us advance our mission? Does it leverage our competitive advantage? Does it meet a compelling identified need of a population that we have said we are serving? That goes back to your identity statement again. Who do we serve? There are also many criteria that are unique to different organizations. Does it help us really tap into the energy and enthusiasm of our very large and engaged volunteer population, perhaps? Or do we have the staff capacity to take this on? And I've seen several organizations where that is a very important element of their strategy screen, because they tend to be the type of organization where your eyes are bigger than your stomach, and you take on a little bit more than you can handle, and sometimes forgetting that your staff is already half in the bag and can't actually do anything else until you have dropped something off. There are a couple things about strategy screens that you should remember. One, it is really helpful to design your screen before you start making your list of options to consider. It is very tempting otherwise to design a screen that will let in those great ideas that you have, every one. And as a matter of fact, one of my clients once told me, we need a screen, not a sieve. Others have said, oh, well, if we changed that criteria right there, we could do this, and I think we should really do this. So all that said, a strategy screen is not meant to be thoroughly prohibitive. You may, in fact, choose to pursue a strategy that does not pass your screen, or maybe doesn't pass on the first go-around. But if you do that, and if you've used the screen, that decision is deliberate, and it's well thought out, and those who are involved understand why you're doing it. So, something to keep in mind as you develop your screen. The last principle, which identify your big question. Organizations are constantly faced with big questions. We live in this large, again, organizational context. Sometimes these questions come in the form of opportunities. This organization over here approaches us and says they're interested in a potential merger, or they want to partner with us in a joint program. Sometimes it's a competitive challenge. That organization over there has decided they want to start a program just like ours in the next community, serving many of the same people or organizations that we serve. Sometimes these challenges are business model challenges. Membership is declining. Membership is declining everywhere. Or the government funding that you have long depended on is not going to be available at some particular time in the future. Or perhaps the data that has always been your competitive advantage is now freely available online. So now what do you have to offer? These things come up unexpectedly, all the time, and they typically push you beyond your current strategies. So it's really important that you are always able to identify what is our current big question and what's the information that we need to answer that. And when you go out and you gather that information and you come back, you can evaluate your different options, your different potential strategies using your strategy screen, which was your second tool. So there you have it, 5 principles, 2 tools, and 1 challenge. So I challenge each of you out here to go back to your organizations and talk with one another about this. Actually ask, how would we articulate our identity statement? Where do we fit in the market? What sets us apart? And what should be in our strategy screen? Put something together and try it on. See if it works. Can't be worse than it is now. You may or may not be ready to actually engage in full-on strategic planning now, today, next week. But this is how it starts. And hopefully, this is how it continues. Thank you.
Thank you.